So I'm still getting used to filming myself and making videos, and I'm still kind of getting comfortable with it. So I thought doing a YouTube video for the first time, the best thing for me to do that's easy for me to talk about is my favourite movies, because I love talking about my favourite movies and I'll talk about anyone that'll listen. Um, but I don't have one favourite film. I have 11 because I'm indecisive and I just love things and films too much to not have 11. And if I probably thought about it too much, I'd add more to the list. But we're sticking with 11. So these are these are the 11 favorite movies, and these are in no particular order. They're all my favorite movie. They're just the order in which I took them off the shelves. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about each of them and why I love them so much. Starting off strong with The Lost Boys. This is actually one of my dad's favourite movies. And as a kid, when I was like, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that, one of his favourite things to do was to sit me down and be like, this is a great movie. We're going to get you to watch it because this is one of my favourite movies. And from the moment that I saw it, I absolutely loved it. It's got one of my all-time favourite soundtracks in every movie ever. It's got a lot of 80s music on, which I'm a big fan of 80s music. If you do like 80s stuff and you haven't seen this movie, it's such a quintessentially 80s film. If you don't like 80s type of films, then you possibly wouldn't like this. But The Lost Boys is basically about a family that moved to Santa Carla, known as the murder capital of the world, and find that it's infested with vampires. Vampires who ride motorcycles and wear earrings and leather jackets because it's the 80s and they look cool as hell. And I just love watching this film. It's the only film one of the few films that my dad will watch on repeat. So I watched this quite a lot growing up and learned to love it just like he did. Um, and I still do now, and I still watch it on repeat. And I just love this. This is like the original poster, and I just think it's so cool. Um, the next is one of the more recent movies, and that's John Wick, specifically John Wick Chapter 4. I'm a big fan of the whole John Wick franchise. You can probably tell that I really, really like John Wick. I grew up watching Keanu Reeves movies. I grew up watching Bill and Ted and The Matrix, and then this came out. Chapter 4 is possibly my favourite, which is kind of strange for a franchise, for it to be the fourth film. But I remember going to the cinema to watch this and just my jaw dropping. The action scenes, the cinematography, the settings, the music, the characters, that drop down dragon's breath scene still blows me away every single time I see it, and I never want it to end when it starts. And it is a long film, but it never feels long because it's so fast paced and action heavy, and the characters are so amazing. And I love this box as well. I think I went and saw it like 4 or 5 times at the cinema, and then as soon as it came out, I immediately pre ordered the DVD just so I could watch it over and over again. But I love the whole franchise, but I think Chapter 4 is the best. Now, going on to kind of some Studio Ghibli movies, which I didn't watch them much as a kid. I watched Spirited Away, I think, and that was it. But then as I got older, I kind of rediscovered Spirited Away, and it got me back into watching Studio Ghibli movies. And by far my favourite is Howl's Moving Castle. I love the animation for Studio Ghibli, and I just love this film. I definitely connect with Sophie, um, and I love the art style of the castle. It's not really a castle, but it's really cool. But I just think it's such a sweet story. I think it's so nice, and it's just one of those comfort films that I can just throw on at any point and watch, and it just makes me feel all nice and comforted. Um, the next film is probably the film that I've seen the most times in my life. I watch this like Beetlejuice like 10 times a year. I am a Tim Burton fan. Some of his movies are definitely better than others, but Beetlejuice is by far my favourite. This, kind of like Lost Boys, was a film that my mum always really loved and she introduced me to. and we used to watch this all the time together. She kind of, see, I'm autistic, and when I get on something, when I love a film, I will just watch it on repeat for weeks. And I think because of that, my mom doesn't really like watching this as much, because she's kind of all watched out of it. Whereas I will watch this all the time, constantly. I've seen it so much that I can mouth along to all of the dialogue. I can replay it in my head, shot for shot. Because of that, it's kind of a movie that if I'm like doing something and I want something on in the background, I'll pop this on, because I don't really need to follow it, because I've seen it that much that I just know everything that's happening in it and all of the words, and I love the music in it. And it's just, I think this is like a quintessential Tim Burton film. If you've never watched anything Tim Burton, I think this is a great place to start. Um, Again, very 80s, but I absolutely adore this film, and I'll continue watching it on repeat for the rest of my life. The newest film on this list, I used to have 10 favourite movies, and then I watched this movie, and I loved the other 10 so much that I couldn't get rid of them, but I love this film so much that I had to add it, and that's Lisa Frankenstein. This is written by Diablo Cody, who's the same person who wrote Jennifer's Body, and it's definitely, I think if you like that movie, you definitely like this movie. This is in from the 80s, obviously, because it's a new film, but it's set in the 80s. It's very much got a very more neon, bubblegummy kind of horror film look to it. It's a horror comedy. Um, I think for any kind of goth girl growing up in a town where there wasn't any other goth girls and no one that looked or dressed like you, and probably think that you're weird in the way that you look and dress. I'm quite toned down today because I'm going to work later. Um, this film is just, it's like a hug. It's so nice. I love it so much. The music as well on this is incredible. It might rival Lost Boys for the greatest soundtrack. But I just love Catherine Newton's character of Lisa. She's just everything I was and want to be. Um, and it's one of those weird girl films that some people won't understand, I think. But if you were similar to Lisa, this just feels like, it just feels so comforting and so much like me. And I've watched it so many times. I went to the cinema to see this like John Wick 4 or 5 times, and I've just been watching it. I think since it came out on DVD, I've watched it another 4 or 5 times, maybe more. And I'll just constantly put it on. I constantly listen to the soundtrack. I want all the wardrobe from this movie because it was amazing, and I endlessly recommend. If people ask me what like a film to watch, this is it. Watch this. It's so good. Now, the next film is 1994's The Crow, specifically 1994's The Crow. I haven't seen the new one. I don't want to see the new one. I haven't seen any of the sequels. Kind of like with Lost Boys, I haven't watched any sequels for that because I just don't feel like I need any more than this, what's contained in this. This is, I have the clearest memory of watching this for the first time than I do of any other film that I first watched. It was my auntie came over to babysit me, and she brought this film and she was like, "Have you seen this?" And I was like, "No, I've never even heard of it. I don't know what it is." And she's like, "This is like somebody made a film specifically for you. It has everything that you love in it, and we're gonna watch it. We're gonna order pizza and watch it." And even within like the first 10-15 minutes, I could just feel myself falling in love with this movie. I love the costume design, I love the cinematography, I love the sets, I love the story, the characters. Brandon Lee's fantastic. This is the movie that he sadly passed away in, and it feels like such a nice homage to him and what he was capable of. But this is such a beautiful, stunning film. I don't think I've watched it yet since I first watched it when I was, I don't know, 11 or something like that, 12, and not kind of got a bit emotional watching it, because it's just such a beautiful, stunning film. And this is one, like, there's a lot of movies that I have on my favorites, like with The Lost Boys. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies. But if somebody told me that they watched it and they didn't like it, I could understand that. I get it. It's very much a movie of its time. and if you're not into that kind of thing, I can understand not liking it. I will never be able to understand how people can watch this film and not love it. If you don't like this film, I don't want to know. Most of the time, I'm like I say, I can understand people like different things, and that's normally fine. But I love this film so much, and I just can't understand people not loving it. If you watch the new one and you've never seen this one, and you didn't, whether you like the new one or not, please watch this one. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's beautiful, and I don't. These 11 films are my favorite films. If I had a gun in my head, maybe it would be The Crow that I'd choose. I don't know. The next film, kind of diving into more horror, is the original 2004 Saw film. I'm a huge fan of Leigh Whannell, who wrote that movie and also played Adam in the original one. It's directed by James Wan, who I'm also a fan of. But I was kind of like late watching the Saw films. My parents kind of got me into horror, and most of the films growing up in kind of my early teenage years, I watched kind of the things that they would recommend that I watched. And both of them are really not into gory films. And that's kind of all I would hear about the Saw franchise, is that it's gore, there's no story, there's no substance to it, it's just gore. Now, kind of getting older, I realised that I do like gory films. I do like that. And even, the first Terrifier movie, I like the first Terrifier movie. I understand it's got no plot whatsoever. But I think it's kind of a cool, disgusting um, way of showing how cool practical effects can be. Um, but I decided when Saw 10 was announced to come out, and I hadn't really seen any of the Saw movies, that I was going to watch the entire franchise. And in like 2 days, I was just glued to my TV watching every single Saw film. And I think the people who say this is all gore and nothing else haven't actually watched any of these movies, because this franchise is so plot heavy that it's so convoluted. There's movies that are later but are set before or that happen at the same time. There's a lot going on, but also the original Saw from 2004 is not a gory film at all. I know that I remember watching interviews of James Wan and Leigh Whannell and saying that they never went out with that film to please the gore hounds. They were more inspired by movies like Seven. They wanted a bit more of a thriller kind of feel to it than a gore fest. And that's definitely what the original one is. There's not much gore in it at all. I think a lot of people probably remember seeing Dr. Gordon cut through his foot. You don't see it, and you don't see like the bloody stuff. They cover it over with the pants leg. The sequels are definitely gory, and they get gorier as they go on. So X being the goriest in the franchise, but the original isn't, and I loved it so much. And that ending still gets me every time, even though I know what's happening and I know what's coming. It still gets me, and I just love the characters in it. I love spending time with Amanda and Adam and Dr. Gordon, and I love the whole idea of it and how it kind of all connects at different points in the film. And it made me such a huge fan of Leigh Whannell, and look to discover their other films like Dead Silence and Upgrade and things like that, Cooties, and I love all of them. So I love Saw, and even the people who say I don't like gore, I would still recommend the first one because it's really not that gory. Now the next one is Scream. Scream I probably watched younger than I was supposed to. I was maybe 7 or 8 watching Scream for the first time. Because my parents kind of just let me watch horror films because they realized that they didn't bother me and I really liked them. And they really liked horror films and they liked sharing that with me. I didn't realize that I watched them kind of younger than most people did until I started like talking about it with people at school, and they'd be like, how have you managed to get that around your parents watching that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I watched it with my parents. They recommended it to me. They were like, we're gonna watch this. But I remember watching this at, like I say, 7 or 8. And this is the film that I think got me like really into horror. I watched horror films before then, and I really liked them. But I think because Scream is such an homage to slasher films and slasher fans, while also being a great slasher film itself and a great horror film, it kind of, like, at this point, you know, they were referencing Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and Prom Night and all these different kind of films, and I hadn't watched any of them yet. And it made me really want to get into horror and really want to watch all of these different things. And maybe I wanted to be Randy. I watched this and I wanted to be Randy so bad. I want to be friends with Randy. And it was so funny and so fun. And I think it kind of got me more into film as well. It just got me really into wanting to watch films and loving films. Um, and I think starting me out young was a good, maybe a good or a bad thing, depends on how you look at it, but it really got me into horror, and I still love watching this film over and over again. And I still think the Scream franchise is really, really solid even now. Um, the next one, I don't know if this is considered a good movie by a lot of people, but I particularly love it. And that's Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. Um, my favorite director of all time is Guillermo del Toro. I absolutely love Guillermo del Toro. I think, objectively speaking, I don't think this is the best Guillermo del Toro film, but it's the one that I love the most. Because, kind of like with Lost Boys, my dad introducing me to that, my dad introduced me to Hellboy. He loved the Hellboy movies. I watched this, I think, in cinemas when it came out. But I loved the first Hellboy. Really loved it. We watched it over and over again. My mum has never gotten the Hellboy thing, but me and my dad, we love Hellboy. Um, and then this one came out, and I've always preferred this one to the original. I think it's mainly due to the villain, this guy here. He's called Prince Nuada, and I just liked him better than Rasputin in the first one, because I think Rasputin just kind of wants to do evil things because he's evil, whereas Prince Nuada, I think, is a lot more nuanced. And I love the character design of him. I love the character designs of a lot in here. I loved seeing the troll market in this one. Um, and I always think, you know how people have like their favorite Star Wars character, and they're a character that popped up for like a minute, if that. But the design of them and something about the creation of that character is just so iconic that they can't help but love it. I feel like that about, there's a character in this that Guillermo del Toro refers to as Cathedral Head, the man with a city in his mind. And his head is literally in the shape of a cathedral. And he's in the film for, like I say, a minute, if that. But I thought that character design was so beautiful that he's like my favorite character in this, because I think he looks so cool. But I love the characters in this. I think it's such a fun film. I love the design. I think it's very much why I fell in love with Del Toro, which is just the look of things that he puts in a movie and how beautiful and stunning, and everything seems to be so well thought and put so much effort into. So it may not be the best Del Toro movie, objectively speaking, but it will always be my favourite. And I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I love watching it. And I think Liz is so unbelievably cool. I love her so much. The last two are superhero films. I'm a big fan of, you can kind of see my superhero collection here. Um, Again, I give this to my dad. My dad loves comic book films. He loves superhero films, and I remember watching the Spider-Man films with him growing up. And I love Marvel, and my favorite Marvel film is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It used to be the original one, but then this came out, and I have never cried at a film as much as I've cried at this film. I love the whole Guardians franchise. I think James Gunn is fantastic at what he does. I think he makes films that are both so funny and entertaining, but also have such a heart to them. And I think nothing shows that more than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Um, and I love just the kind of character completion for Rocket. And I loved this film so much, and I still cry at it every time I watch it. But it's so fun, it's so funny, it's so heartwarming, it's also heart destroying. But I love the action sequences, I love the look of it. Again, James, I feel like every James Gunn film I watch, the soundtrack is just amazing. He knows how to choose music for his movies. I love that hallway fight scene. I love these characters, and I love how long we've got to spend with them over the three movies, getting to know them and getting to love them. And this just felt like the perfect ending to that trilogy. and the perfect way to kind of send off these characters. I don't know what the MCU is going to do with them next, now that James Gunn is no longer involved with them and has moved over to DC. But I think that trilogy, just as its own thing, is just so beautiful and so well done, and has brought me so much joy. And it just makes me happy to watch these films. It makes me really, really happy. And the second and final James Gunn film in my list is James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I was so excited for this coming out because the original Suicide Squad was such a huge disappointment for me. Not to do with anything with Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is amazing. Harley Quinn is probably my favourite character in anything ever. I love Harley Quinn so much, and even though the original Suicide Squad film wasn't great, I'm still grateful that it happened because it gave us Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, and I think her Harley Quinn is the best portrayal that I've seen, and I just love that portrayal, and I'm so glad that we got her from that. But the movie was a huge letdown for me. I'm not normally that angry about movies, but I was angry about that movie. I was so upset. So when I heard that this was getting made and it was going to be made by James Gunn, I was so happy. I have a lot of faith in James Gunn. I'm very happy that he's taken over the DC universe, um, because I think it's in good hands with him. But this movie, I think is the movie I've seen the most times at the cinema. I went 7 or 8 times to watch this. I think even the staff at the cinema were starting to look at me weird and being like, "Haven't you seen this a lot already?" And I'm like, "Yeah, and I'm gonna go watch it again because it's so good and I can't wait." But it's just, I think, such an amazing team up. Again, the music's so good. But every single character in this, I went into it knowing that I was gonna love Harley's character, but I also love Polka Dot Man. I'm a big fan of David Dastmalchian, and I think he's great in everything that I've seen him in. But Polka Dot Man is so good. I think every character in this film, again, kind of like with the Guardians franchise, it's so funny and it's got such great action and it's so entertaining. But I think it's still got that heart to it that James Gunn's just amazing at putting into his films, especially his superhero films. And I will watch this endlessly. I've got the vinyl for it. I love all the characters. I love all the slow motion shots, just everything about it. And I really hope we get to see more of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and these characters in James Gunn's DCU. I mean, this is a film that he made, so it would kind of make sense to me for him to keep these characters. I'd love to see King Shark again, especially in Ratcatcher 2. I'm very upset that we'll not see more of Polka Dot Man. Very upset about that, but it is what it is. I still love this movie. I'll forgive it for that. But that is all of my 11 favorite films. Um, I would obviously recommend anybody go watch these movies. I love them so much. I'm not going to talk about any follow-ups because I'd be here for hours talking about so many different movies. Um, but I hope you enjoyed watching that. I'm going to try and get better at making these videos and more comfortable with it and make more consistently. I'm mostly going to be talking about kind of mostly horror. Horror is my favourite. And not just horror in general in all its forms, not just film, but films as well. And I love books and all that kind of stuff. So if that's something you think you might want to watch, I'll promise I'll try and be less awkward. Then you can always like and subscribe. That would be kind of incredible to actually have someone do that on something that I made. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.